Hi there, I'm Haruka. I still don't have a job. But that doesn't mean that time doesn't endlessly march on into the void. So we've got another NFL season coming right up for us. However frightening the concept of time is, the constant presence of yet another season of NFL football is actually quite calming. There will always be football, right? Anyway, here's my yearly season preview. Once again, I'm giving myself 30 seconds to preview each team in descending order based on last season's divisional standings, because that's just how I do things, apparently. I did this once, 2 years ago, and now I do it the same way every time. The NFC East. Philadelphia Eagles. Philly had probably the most explosive offense last season and combined it with one of the best defenses. They broke so many records last season, including the most rushing touchdowns in a season, and that offense has only gotten better and the defense has gotten better. Out with Miles Sanders, in with DeAndre Swift and Rashad Penny for the run game. Jalen Hurts is going to have so many options, not even including A.J. Brown. They kept Fletcher Cox and added 2 first-round defensemen in Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. I don't know who could get in their way at this point, because it sure as hell is no living thing. Dallas Cowboys. No one really wants to admit it, but the Cowboys had a pretty damn solid season despite playing a large portion of it with a backup QB. Cooper rushed at his job somehow and even had a higher passer rating at the end of the season than Dak. They had a top 5 scoring offense and a top 5 defense in stopping other teams from scoring. I trust that defense so much, and while the receiving core does get a lot of credit, it was the ground game that got points. They made a lateral move by replacing Zeke with Rojo and little guy Deuce Vaughn. They really should do better, but Dak's decision making is a bit suspect after that playoff loss. New York Football Giants. Probably one of the most average teams you've ever seen last season. Their only real standout stat is how their defense didn't really put in the extra work. And a big reason their offense was so average was because their rushing game with Saquon Barkley was so good. Maybe it's Daniel Jones' fault, maybe it's not, but the Giants are where wide receivers go to die right now. Rip St. Rita and Huskies alum Kenny Galladay. Jamison Crowder might be the next victim, or tight end Darren Waller. I don't think there's any real improvement unless the defense actually steps up. You've got to win the turnover battle, not just try not to lose it. Washington Commanders. So it sounds really weird to hear, but I do think the Commies have a chance at being decent. They sneakily had one of the best defenses last season, only really struggling in the secondary, and the receiving core and running backs aren't bad. Their biggest issues are at that secondary and the questions at quarterback. I think that Emmanuel Forbes and Jartavius Martin could both be immediate impacts on the secondary, and I know they're trying to make Sam Howell a thing, but I really want Jacoby Brissett to finally reach his full potential. So yeah, the one thing is probably going to sink the whole season, but I do know there's a lot of upside in the future, especially with the new ownership. NFC North, Minnesota Vikings. First of all, how dare you? They cut Dalvin Cook, who made the Pro Bowl, and then they let go Adam Thielen, which is just mean. I do not respect Kirk Cousins, but I do respect TJ Hawkinson and Justin Jefferson. And those two, along with first-rounder Jordan Addison, will be the bulk of this offense. Kirk Cousins cannot throw the ball good, but he's going to have a good season because, his weapons. But that gap at running back might hurt them. Not to say Alexander Madison isn't good, but he's not, Dalvin Cook good. The Detroit Lions. For personal reasons, I need this to work out. I liked them going into last season and thought they could build on it coming into this one, but instead they dumped their 2 amazing running backs. But they did immediately replace Swift and Williams with David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs. It's just that their defense is still ass. They were top 5 in yards gained and still let by over 200 more yards than that. And they didn't really make any major moves back there, so I guess they're just hoping that the guys they already have are just going to play better. I want to believe in these guys, and it's just so hard. The Green Bay Packers. Whatever happened last season means absolutely nothing this season. Aaron Rodgers is gone, and I don't think lightning is about to strike a third time with Jordan Love, which is fine. It's normal. You can have a normal quarterback for a couple of seasons. Majkowski, or whatever his name was before Favre. They've also lost pretty much all of their receivers except for Christian Watson and Romeo Dubes. Dubes? Even my family up in Wisconsin are like, yeah, they're going to suck this season. The whole division is going to suck. Chicago Bears. Remember what I just said about the whole division is going to suck? Well, I smell an opportunity for these Bears. I'm not saying that the Bears are good. They earned that first overall pick for a reason while they were gutting their defense mid-season, but there's an opening in the NFC North this year. Forget about the defense. Defense has been lost through the void. Justin Fields is finally developing the mobile quarterback we all wanted to see when he was drafted, and his receiving core has been massively upgraded with DJ Moore and Chase Claypool being traded in, and Cole Kmet is finally being a dude. They get second in the division, and the Panthers fall apart to give them a higher first rounder next season to get a new defensive centerpiece. They could be cooking. NFC South, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Much like with the Packers, last season means next to nothing, except I'd honestly trust Baker Mayfield with performing well than I do Jordan Love. Brady is finally gone, and there is much rejoicing. Also, the Bucs don't have the same mass exodus that the Pack had. Mike Evans and Chris Godwin are still there. And while they moved on from Leonard Fournette for some reason, Rachaad White is fine, and Chase Edmonds is solid second back. Their defense isn't bad, but unless Mayfield produces really well, I'm not sure about their chances to do anything. However, they might still sneak into the playoffs as the division champ again, because this division sucks too. Carolina Panthers. Panthers. Because that brings me here, where Mayfield didn't work out last season. But this time around, they're going to try to trust, first overall pick Bryce Young, and based on how he's in the preseason, I'm not sure if he's ready. An average defense with a very hit-or-miss offense that is relying on a quarterback out of Bama. I want you all to know that if you want to find the last Bama QB that did something in the NFL, you'd have to go all the way back to the 60s with Ken Stabler and Joe Namath. Jalen Hurts moved to Oklahoma, and both Tua and Mac haven't actually done anything in the league yet. What I'm trying to say is that they can literally do anything, because Andy Dalton isn't exactly a safe backup either. So I don't know what they're going to do. They could do anything. New Orleans Saints. They got Derek Carr. Why do you think that would help? Maybe Michael Thomas will play this season. I don't know. The defense is solid, but I just don't rate Carr. Kind of like Cousins, except Carr kind of looks like prime Billy Joe Armstrong, so he's got that going for him. I don't know. I wrote this while I was very tired. I just see no reason why this should be any different from the previous season. Maybe some improvement, like I like Chris Olave. He did well. The Atlanta Falcons. My notes just say, I'm sad, and Bijan Robinson. So I guess they're just going to be like last season, except now they've got the second coming of Marshawn Lynch. The time is now for Desmond Ridder, but he did not look good last season, and I wouldn't expect anything more this season. And Taylor Heineke is not much better. I don't know, maybe next season you can try to suck for like Caleb Williams or something? NFC West. San Francisco 49ers. I think I hate the 49ers at this point, like ever since they dumped Kaepernick. Not even for dumping Cap anymore, but for everything that they've done to the quarterback's position since then. I don't think they know what a quarterback is at this point. From CJ Beathard to Brian Hoyer to Jimmy Garoppolo to Nick Mullins, back to Jimmy, back to Mullins. Then they draft Trey Lance, then they go back to Jimmy, then Jimmy and Lance both get injured, and Mr. Irrelevant Brock Purdy leads them to the NFC Championship game. And now it's Sam Darnold. They remind me of the Bears that made the Super Bowl in 2007. Completely dominant defense, a solid rushing game, and a dominant athlete at receiver, and no one actually running the ship. The Seattle Seahawks. I'd like to say that I absolutely called Geno Smith needing to be the starter for Seattle. I'm just so happy for the guy. He's embodied the struggle of a non-elite quarterback in the NFL, and he's made so much for his chance last season. I'm very high on him this season, too. I don't think they're going to have the same explosive offense, but DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett are still amazing receivers. Two top-tier tight ends in Will Dissly and Noah Fant. The big concern is defense, and I'm confused why they traded up to draft a defensive back when it's their line that was trashed last year. Despite being 7th in stacks, their other metrics were just terrible. So, worst rushing defense, too. Los Angeles Rams. I think this division might just suck for quarterbacks at this point. Matt Stafford got injured, Baker Mayfield was benched, and guys like John Wolford and Bryce Perkins were getting reps. I was right about them falling off, but I just didn't expect them to fall out this hard. Cooper Kupp is still good. Anyone else, I don't know. Stafford is back from injury, but the defense regressed along with the offense, and if he goes down again, it's up to Stetson, the mailman Bennett, who's off his 6-year college career, where he won 2 national championships thanks to one of the best defenses in NCAA history. It's going to be a down year again. The Arizona Football Cardinals. Kyler Murray is still injured. Enter Texas Longhorns legend Colt McCoy. Colt probably isn't going to go off the way that Geno did, given his age and incredibly different skill set, but he's had the same struggles as Geno, possibly even worse because of his long stretch in Washington, so it'd be nice if he can get an emotional win for the first time in over a decade. Outside of that, there is nothing here for Cardinals fans. DeAndre Hopkins was traded, J.J. Watt retired, and the defense is garbage. So yeah, better luck next time. AFC East. The Buffalo Bills. The Bills are just good. There's really nothing else you can say about them. They didn't really lose anyone of value. Devin Singletary was replaced by Damian Harris and Latavius Murray, and Tremaine Edwards is good, but not enough of a loss to change the way their defense plays. They added tight end Dalton Kincaid and giving Josh Allen even more options. Normally I'm against the rich getting richer, but I just want Bills Mafia to finally get their silverware. The Miami Dolphins. My structural issues with the Finns have just gotten worse. Before I just didn't like Tyreek Hill for being abusive and what they did to their Brian Flores. Now I got beef with Mike McDaniel actively and willingly giving Tua permanent brain damage. But the team is good. Their offense is already solid, but the defense has improved drastically with the addition of Jalen Ramsey, which is exactly what they needed, with their secondary really just being the missing piece to their puzzle. But, don't break Tua's brain. The New England Patriots. The Patriots were not good last season, but they were still a surprisingly good team. The thing is, the quality is all on defense, where they were one of the best at keeping opponents from moving the ball, especially on the ground. On offense, Mac Jones is not the answer, unless it's Bama QB's trivia question. Ramondre Stevenson is about as unhelpful in the run game. They've picked up Ezekiel Elliott, but that's just, a slight improvement over Damian Harris until he shows he's got nothing more in the tank. It's sad to be saying that about a guy who's 28 and had a solid season, but we've seen the past few seasons of deterioration. The New York Jets. The Jets are in a similar situation to the Pats, where they had an absolutely massive defense with the best secondary in the league, but the offense couldn't do anything. Does that change with Aaron Rodgers? I have no clue. Again, the Jets struggled to maintain a consistent starting QB for the season, so having a proven guy like Rodgers is certainly a big help, but he was also showing a bit of rust developing last season, with it being his first full season under 4,000 yards since 2015, and these receivers aren't much better. On the other hand, Dalvin Cook. AFC North, Cincinnati Bengals. I love you, Joe Burrow. Joe Cool really does just drag this team into good places, almost getting them into the Super Bowl again. I still think that intentional grounding call was bullshit, but he has the receivers to help him do it with massive upgrade this season of Irv Smith Jr. at tight end. But like a lot of these teams, there's one side of the ball that needs help right now, and that means the Bengals need to get their defense right. They can keep the score low, but they allow a lot of yards. Addition by subtraction with D-back Eli Apple going to Miami, but they really need Joseph Asai to really step up to his potential. The Baltimore Ravens. This is it, man. This has to be their season. After dealing with injuries the past couple seasons and a lack of quality targets for Lamar, this has to be their time. Duvernay getting joined by Nelson Aguilar, OBJ, and draft pick Zay Flowers. Seriously, all they need is a healthy backfield because their defense may not be one of the best, but they're solid, especially on the ground, which is what you like to see. And the trade for Roquan Smith isn't going to hurt either. Just got to keep that offense healthy, and you are going to have a solid season. The Pittsburgh Steelers. Look, we all know what's wrong with the Steelers. Mitch Trubisky sucks, and Kenny Pickett isn't ready yet. Combine that with TJ Watt getting injured early in the season, and the team is going nowhere. There may be a bounce back, at least for the defense, but that offense still needs so much more work. Pickett needs some actual options if you wanted to do anything. Deontay Johnson is their only threat out there. The Cleveland Browns. They suck and their quarterbacks are rapists. That's all you need to know. The AFC South. Jacksonville Jaguars. Now, you may think that their playoff appearance last season was just due to both the AFC and NFC South being absolute trash, but the Jags might be set to go off. Trevor Lawrence is getting better, and he's got great new target in Calvin Ridley. They're not exactly going to take the league by storm, but they have a chance to improve by a lot. The Tennessee Football Titans. It's Team Derrick Henry. They drafted yet another second-round quarterback that they won't let start ahead of Ryan Tannehill. Honestly, I don't know why they get all these good wide receivers if they're not going to have a quarterback who's good enough to get them the ball. Their secondary sucks too. The whole division sucks except for the Jags. The Indianapolis Colts. You know, I like Anthony Richardson. Jonathan Taylor is a solid back, and I think this team is building well. Oh, wait, their owner is an absolute bastard to Taylor. Jim Irsay has done good things with his wealth, but the fact of the matter is that in this situation, he basically told Taylor that he doesn't value his labor enough to pay him. And I'm a union gal. I appreciate labor, but values him enough to not trade him. This isn't going to be solved with Taylor staying, and the whole situation is going to hurt the Colts a lot. The Houston Texans. Somehow the worst team in the NFL didn't get the top pick in this draft thanks to Bears sleeper agent Lovie Smith winning on a last-minute 2-point conversion. You ever notice how teams always seem to make tanking their goals the moment that they have a black coach? Just a thought. Anyway, he's gone. And honestly, I think CJ Stroud might work out more than Bryce Young, so actually Lovie was very helpful. Everything else still sucks on this team, so like, there's not much else to say. The AFC West. The Kansas City Chiefs. Not only were they the champs, but the Chiefs were statistically the best offense in the league despite having this weird vibe around them all season. They lost to the Colts in week 3. They refreshed their receiving core, and we saw the rise of Isaiah Pacheco, a 7th-round pick that had a better rookie NFL season than he ever had at 4 years at Rutgers. The defense isn't great, but it works. Their only issue is if Mahomes stays healthy. That ankle scare from the playoffs is something to look out for if it starts to linger from him playing so hard on it during the playoffs. The Los Angeles Chargers. I don't really like the Chargers. Normally, I like high-flying offenses, but there's something that bugs me about them. Austin Eckler can't run. He's a top receiver, but he's just not a running back. And they don't really have anyone who can run the ball. So while they're great in the air, both on offense and defense, once the game slows down, things go bad. But I think that at least the defense has improved. I like CJ Okoye, who literally played his first ever real game of football in his life in the preseason. The Las Vegas Raiders. I've said what I've said about Jimmy, but he just looks at home in Vegas, at least visually. And I honestly don't know how much he'll help. This team is pretty average. The defense, while not exactly the worst based on usual numbers we look at, are absolutely the worst team in the AFC based on all the advanced metrics. Lowest turnover rate, an expected point contribution of about a negative 130, a defensive SRS of negative 3.7. All of these things are very complicated ways of saying that the Raiders defense is trash, and instead they focus on a barely improved offense. The Denver Broncos. Now we all get to laugh at Russell Wilson. The offense was tangibly bad in ways that are so funny. They got all the yards they needed, they just could not score. It's not even anything about turnovers. They had the most punts in the league last season while picking up an average amount of yards. In fact, they actually gave up the most yards per punt, a stat that sounds so ridiculously irrelevant, but somehow explains a lot about their inefficiency on offense. I don't know how you solve that, just like, get good, I guess. Now is for the time where I just make random predictions. The MVP of the year is Jalen Hurts. I like Josh Allen, and Mahomes is probably going to get more of the spotlight and more of the benefit of the doubt, but I think that Hurts just has so much going for him in that offense that he's going to use all of it. Rookie of the year, offensive rookie, Bijan Robinson. Look, if there's a rookie in the first round of everyone's fantasy drafts, there's got to be something to it. I think there's a bright future ahead for some of the quarterbacks. Like, I like Anthony Richardson. I just said that. Bryce Young is going to do something. I just think that, Bijan gets there right away for his position. Defensive rookie, Jalen Carter. Georgia has had some of the best defenses in college history the past few years. I mentioned that earlier. And guys like Carter are going to be a big part of, those guys coming into the NFL. And I know that there's definitely a few Georgia guys already on that Eagles defense. So, I mean, linking back up, you're going to play a whole lot better when you play with people you know. The Super Bowl, I think, is going to be the Bills against the Eagles. We could see a repeat of the same matchup as last season, but I think there's got to be some rotation between the Chiefs, Bengals, and Bills. And I want the Bills to finally make it. However, I think that the Eagles would just have more in them, especially on the defensive side of the ball, so I think that the Eagles would win it. So that's what you need to know going into this NFL season. Like, comment, and subscribe to enter for a chance to win a Spotify playlist of Kirk Cousins' favorite worship songs. Making videos is difficult. I owe the government a lot of money, or at least I'm going to owe them a lot of money very soon because I graduated from college. Please join my Patreon. I have a link at the end, and you can go there. You can sign up and send me money every month, please. I owe the government a lot of money, man. Thank you for watching.
Keep on rocking.